Hi guys, welcome back to my kitchen for another video. Today's video we will be focusing on no meat, no chicken dinners. Now we're going to do 5 different dinners. 4 of them will be with salmon, 1 will be completely without any animal protein. So this will be a little bit fun, a little bit different, a little bit something that I don't generally do. We do focus a lot on the meat and the chicken very often, and I don't do very often the dairy. So this is a little bit of a fun twist, at least for my family. Now I'm gonna tell you first what we're gonna be making, but I just wanted to let you know that I will have the recipes linked for you down below. And if you want to make anything specific, I'm gonna have the timestamps for you down below so you can jump ahead to whatever it is that you want to see. So today we're gonna start off with our fettuccine Alfredo along with a shredded Kani salmon. So we're going to shred up the Kani, mix it together with a few things, put it on top of the salmon and bake that. And then for a refreshing drink with it, we will have some vanilla malted. Yeah, that's what it's called, vanilla malted. The next thing we'll be making is a quinoa taco salad. So this is the one that won't have any salmon. We're going to eat it with some chips, a bunch of vegetables and toppings to add it with. And I believe on that day we're gonna have I have some puff pastry shells that I bought by mistake, so when I needed the sheets, so I had it in my freezer. I have it in my freezer, and for that meal we're going to bake that up and make a dessert with it. The next one we'll be making is a pasta alla vodka. It's not called penne because we're not using penne for this. The recipe calls for rigatoni. I believe I bought a ziti though, so you can use whatever pasta you want. With that, we're going to make a hot honey side of salmon, and we're going to serve it along with some garlic parmesan green beans. We're getting lots of green beans out of the garden. Our arch is finally filling up with all the green beans, and there's so much to pick. Whenever we go out there, there's constantly more to pick. The next day, we're going to have the leftover hot honey salmon. And I'm going to serve it with some fresh sourdough sandwich bread, along with some home fries using onions from our garden because those are coming in as well, along with some eggs. I have a feeling my family's going to end up eating it with sunny side up. And I'm also going to pull out some cheese blintzes that I have in my freezer. So we're going to have lots of little things, sort of like a breakfast for dinner type of idea on that night. And we're going to use up our side of salmon because my family cannot finish a side of salmon in for one meal. And then the last thing we'll be making is some pesto sourdough pizza. Again, I have lots of basil that I need to harvest out of my garden. So we're going to harvest some, make some pesto with that. We're going to make sourdough pesto pizza with a seared maple salmon. Yeah, we'll see if I get to make a side on that day. But if I do, I'm probably going to end up making a Kani salad, Kani avocado salad, so that when I buy the Kani for the, which one is it? For the shredded Kani salmon, there's another something that I can use the Kani for so that it doesn't end up going to waste. So, like I said, we're going to start off with a fettuccine Alfredo, the shredded Kani salmon, and the vanilla malted. So let's get right into it. So I just preheated my oven. We need it on 380. We're going to prepare the Kani to go on top of our salmon. Then we're going to start working on our fettuccine. And once I got this going, we'll get the fish into the oven and finish off the fettuccine. And I think hopefully like that, they will both be done about the same time. So I'm getting out a bowl. And what we need to do is we need to shred up the Kani, but also making it into small pieces. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm first going to open all of these up. The question is definitely not in half. I think I'll do them in thirds. Yeah, I think thirds is a good length to have them at. And then I'm going to shred it up Okay, so after doing a few pieces, I'm finding that if I just keep on just rubbing it in my fingers back and forth a little bit, it separates it enough where even though it's not single strands, it is pretty good. And I'm okay if it's like a few pieces together. Okay, now that we got this done, we can add a few ingredients in here and combine it. So we're going to start off with a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. And my hope is that as we're mixing this, the Kani will maybe break up a bit more. About a tablespoon of hot sauce, 2 tablespoons of breadcrumbs, and a pinch of salt. Now we can mix this together. Okay, so we can set this aside. Okay, now I got a pan out. We're going to add our salmon in here. Now before we can get the Kani over the salmon, it does say to spread some soy sauce over here. So, yeah. So instead of using pastry brush, since I have this little squirt bottle, just going to gently squirt a little bit over it, over the entire slice. You want to do it? Yeah. Okay, I got a helper that wants to do this. Okay, now we're going to get this mixture that we prepped and place it over top of the salmon. And we're going to divide this between the four salmons. Move this aside. So I reread my recipe now, and it does say to let this cool before eating it. So I will get it into the oven now, and this needs to bake for 15 minutes. Now I've got a helper here. She's peeling the onion for me. I'm going to get some water going for our pasta. Okay, so I've got my water in here. Let me get the salt so that we remember to salt it. And let me get our pasta out, our fettuccine. And for the fettuccine Alfredo, we actually like the brown rice pasta. So we're going to use this today. Okay. Now I want my pasta cooking right with my sauce, so then when we finish, we can transfer our pasta easily into the sauce. So I'm going to get this pan heating up as well. Okay, now we need half a stick of butter, and this one has 3 tablespoons. So I open up another stick and got 1 tablespoon off of that. We're going to let that melt. I'm going to finish cutting up the onions because I can add this to the pot already to start sauteing. And in all honesty, I've made this fettuccine Alfredo plenty of times using the sauteed onion cubes. Let me show you what they look like. Like these. I would pop out a few of them depending if I'm doing a full recipe or half, and use however many cubes I feel would be equivalent to that amount of onion. So our onion is melted now, so we can get our onions. What did I say? Did I say our onions is melted?
Yes.
Our butter is melted. So we can get the onions in here. So this we're going to cook down until they caramelize a bit. And once our water is ready for our pasta is when we'll add our mushrooms so that the sauce is ready the same time as the pasta is ready. Because from when we add the mushrooms, the next few steps take about as long as the pasta takes to cook. Okay, now that we got our mushrooms peeled, I'm going to get a cutting board and we're going to slice them. Okay, we're going to set this aside. So we're going to get some salt in here. I'm forgetting my words today. And we're going to get our pasta in there. And this needs to cook for 11 minutes. Can you add the mushrooms in the onions? Thank you. Want to give it a mix? We're going to sprinkle in some salt and some black pepper. We're going to pre-measure a cup of heavy cream, and we're going to have it prepared in this bowl over here. You couldn't even see what I did. I'm going to set it aside. Okay, now I shredded up some Parmesan cheese, and I see we got perfect timing here. So we're going to get our heavy cream in with our onions and mushrooms. And we're going to get a bunch of our Parmesan cheese in here. We're going to save some to add on top of our pasta. We're going to let this dissolve and melt. And we're going to add a little bit more salt and pepper. Season every layer. I'm already going to turn off the heat from the pasta because it's bubbling enough. And I want to make sure that our sauce thickens up before we add anything in. I don't know if it's coming across for you guys, but this sauce has a little bit of a brownish tinge to it because of the onions, because we got such beautiful color on them. And I love this. Okay, I think our sauce is ready. So what we'll do is, I've got my tongs here, and I'm going to start removing the pasta and getting it into the sauce. And I'm okay with the liquid, the pasta water, getting in with the sauce because it'll help thicken the sauce and help the sauce coat the pasta. So I'm going to start mixing this together, which I can probably use my tongue also for this to help toss it. Okay, so I'm going to get some of this pasta water in here. I'm going to let that combine to thicken up the sauce. The starch from the pasta that got into the water will help thicken up the sauce. You just have to give it a minute or two to work its magic. Yeah. Right, so to plate up this dinner, I'm going to start off with our salmon here. I'm going to get a few slices of our avocado over top. I'm going to sprinkle some sesame seeds. Okay, we got our fettuccine Alfredo, and we're going to top it with some more of our parmesan. So now the fettuccine I've already had before, so I'm not going to taste it with you guys, but I will taste the salmon. But first, let's get a good picture of this. Okay, so I got the salmon, the Kani, and the avocado. Very good. I like it.
I agree.
And now the fettuccine, I know that we like. I've made it a bunch of times before. Wow, better than always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go enjoy this. And I'll see you guys when I'm done with this. We're gonna make some of our vanilla malted. For the malted, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get 4 cups of milk along with 1 1/4 cups of heavy cream, 4 ounces of cream cheese, 1 packet of instant vanilla pudding, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla sugar into my blender. And we're gonna blend it until smooth. This came out pretty good, but I think next time I want to do this, I would just mix milk with ice cream. That would be more the flavor that I remember from my childhood. This one had a little bit more of a salty flavor, and although all of us finished it, it was not our favorite. Now I want to come back to the fish with you for a second. This fish, the flavor of it, we all loved. My entire family enjoyed the flavor of it. But next time I make this, I would bake it on 425 for 15 to 20 minutes because it was still a little bit raw for my family to enjoy it. But again, the flavor of it was delicious. Okay, so today's dinner, we're going to have a taco salad, but we're going to use quinoa instead of meat. We're going to have a bunch of stuff that go along with it. And I have some puff pastry shells that I by mistake bought once, and I needed something to use it up for. I figured I'll make a dessert with it today. So I'm going to bring you guys along for this as well. So over here I am preheating some water for our quinoa to get that cooking. And I'm preheating my oven to be able to bake the puff pastry shells. Okay, while we're waiting for that, I opened up a can of pinto beans. The recipe does call for black beans and pinto beans, and we don't love the flavor of the black beans as much. And since it doesn't really have a sauce, I'm not making a dressing to go with it, I would prefer having a bean that we do like. And I opened up a can of corn to have on the salad as well. So I'm going to rinse and drain this. I'm going to get a bowl out that we're going to combine everything, and so we can toast it easily. So I'm going to add my drained beans in here. Now our water is boiling already. So I'm going to remove the cover. I'm going to add a cup of this. I'm going to mix this together. I'm going to lower the heat, and I'm going to set a timer for 12 minutes. I'm going to rinse and drain our corn. Now the recipe does say to use a cup of this. I'm just going to use all of it because I don't know what I would do with the extra. Now to this, we're going to add a tablespoon of taco seasoning. Now this will all get mixed up together with the quinoa to make the base of the salad. And once we add the quinoa, we're going to add the salt and pepper as well. But for now, I'm going to toast this to get the taco seasoning combined. Now this taco mix, this taco seasoning is something that I made. So I will link the recipe for you down below if you want to make it. If you don't want, then any store-bought taco seasoning will work too. Debating if I should season the quinoa as well. I think I will add a little bit of salt here. Okay. While this is going, I'm going to start cutting up some vegetables as well. Okay, now I started pulling out the vegetables, but our oven reached temperature, so I'm going to get going on our puff pastry shells. I'm going to separate these. And these need to bake for 18 to 20 minutes. Okay, now for the vegetables, I have here some lettuce that is actually from the store that I've had in my fridge from before our garden started producing lettuce. But I don't have any lettuce left over there right now, so I'm going to use this up. I have an avocado, I have a couple of small red onions, and these are from our garden. I have cucumber, radish, and tomatoes. I'm going to cut this up so that we can each top our own salads however we want. So our lettuce, I'm just going to cut into ribbons. So I'm just going to cut them into strips, and that will create a ribbon. And I'm going to leave everything here on the cutting board, and we will plate up our taco salad, our main part, and then we'll top our own salads from the cutting board. Our quinoa has now cooked for 12 minutes. I turned over the heat. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to move it away from the heat that it cooked on, and we're going to let it sit for 5 minutes in steam. Okay, now I don't have any limes in the house, but I do have lemons. So I'm going to have some wedges here. And because we won't be eating right away, I'm going to take a lemon, one of the lemons, and I'm going to squeeze it over top the avocado to prevent it from browning. Which in hindsight, I probably should have waited to cut this up. We're done with this for now, so we're going to move this aside. I have a small space to work with here. So we're going to add our quinoa in here. Wow, the taco seasoning, the cinnamon, smells so good. Wow. And I'm going to season this with some salt and pepper. I'm going to mix to combine and taste for seasoning. Get a little bit. Yeah, I think the seasoning is perfect. So I'm going to see you guys later once we put together our salads and we put together our dessert. Okay, so I'm now ready to eat. I'm going to fluff this up a little bit and get some of this into my bowl here. And I am going to top mine with whatever toppings I want. I'm going to squeeze it over my hand, so if any kernels, any of the lemon pits come out, it should go into my hand. Now I'm going to toast this together a bit. The way we're going to eat it is with some chips. I got some late July sea salt and lime chips. And the flavor of the chips works so well with the taco seasoning. There's so many flavors and spices going on in my mouth. It is delicious. I'm going to sit down and enjoy this. And when I put together our dessert, I will show you guys how I do that. Okay, it is now quite a bit later after dinner. I didn't want to eat this right away. I had some stuff to do around the house and I'm ready for my dessert now. So what I did first was I got some fruit out and I let that defrost. I did have fresh fruit, but we ended up eating all of it, so I have to use the frozen that we have. So you saw me remove the inside of that, and I'm just gonna get some custard. I did not have the time to make my homemade custard this time, so I got some store-bought one. Getting that into the center. If you have whip, you can put some whip on top, but this is what I'm gonna do. So you can do the whip and then put the fruit on top. And since I don't have the whip, I am just going to dust some confectionery sugar over top. Okay, all that's left to do is taste this. It's a classic dessert. Delicious, refreshing. So today's dinner, we will have, this is called a hot honey salmon, along with some pasta alla vodka, which I made for another video and we loved. So I figured it's perfect to make it for this video as well. Along with some garlic parmesan green beans. Now that we're getting green beans out of the garden, this is perfect. So we're starting with our salmon here. And I rinsed it off, patted it dry, and now I am adding salt and pepper. I am preheating my oven to 375. I'm gonna get a bowl out, and we're gonna make in here the dressing that will go over the fish. So we're gonna start off with 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise, a half a teaspoon of ground mustard, a 1/4 cup of hot honey or spicy honey, and I did spray my measuring cup with some oil so that the honey can just glide right out, and 2 tablespoons of finely chopped chives. So I went out to the garden, I harvested a bunch, and however much that is, that's what we're going to use. I probably could have cut them a little bit finer. That's fine. We're going to mix this together. Okay, now we're going to get this over the salmon. And make sure that the entire salmon is covered with it. Cover it like a glaze. Now my oven is already preheated to 375, like I said. So we're going to get it in there for 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, we're going to move the fish to the lowest rack. We're going to set the oven to broil and broil it for 6 minutes. And as soon as it comes out, we're going to brush the glaze that is on the bottom of the fish back onto the salmon. And if you want, you can garnish it with additional chives. We're going to get going with our green beans, but before we do that and get that into the oven, I'm going to get some water cooking for our pasta. And meanwhile, I'm going to get a cookie sheet over here with some parchment paper. And I've already washed and trimmed up my green beans. This is everything that I was able to harvest from the garden today. It's not that much, but we're gonna enjoy it. And I already minced up a garlic as well, which I'm gonna sprinkle over top. So a little bit of olive oil. We're gonna get some kosher salt on here, some black pepper, and we're gonna toast this. Gonna get this in a single layer. And this is gonna bake in a 450-degree oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so now back to the pasta. We need an onion and 4 garlic cloves. And these are onions and garlic from the garden. So because I made the pasta already a couple weeks ago, I know that I want the onion very finely diced, which I probably should have left the end on. Would have made it a lot easier. Okay, now that we got this ready, I'm going to move this aside and we're going to get working on our garlic. So the easiest way to peel it is to just smash it with the end of a knife. And then it just comes right off. Now the garlic I'm going to I'm going to use the garlic press on it when we're ready for it. So now that we have this ready, we can start cooking the sauce. So we're going to get the pot on the stove, turn on the heat. We're going to get some olive oil in here. Do about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And I'm going to get our onion in here. And our garlic. Okay, so we're done with the cutting board. Now these onions and garlic we're going to cook down for about 5 to 7 minutes until it's starting to brown on the edges. Okay, it's been 15 minutes for our green beans. And it looks like it's getting some nice color to it. So I have shredded some Parmesan cheese here. And I'm going to sprinkle it over top. I'm going to let it bake for like another minute. And our water here is bubbling already. So I'm going to remove the cover. I forgot to salt it earlier, so I'm going to sprinkle some kosher salt in there right now. And I'm going to get 1 pound of pasta in there. I'm using some ziti rigati. The recipe does call for rigatoni. If you want, you can use penne or any pasta that you want. And cook it 1 minute less than the recipe calls for. Parmesan is melting. It's perfect. Looks delicious. Now I have pre-measured 4.5 ounces of tomato paste. And I'm going to get some red pepper flakes in here. We're going to mix this together and let this cook down for about another 5 to 7 minutes until the tomato paste darkens in color. Okay, while both of these are cooking, preparing for the next step, so I'm getting 1/4 cup of this hot water, it's a little bit less, into a bowl here. And I know that you can see what I'm doing, but I'm also going to add a 3/4 cup of milk to bring, sorry, not milk, heavy cream, to bring up the temperature of the heavy cream. And that it shouldn't curdle once it's added to the pot. This sauce smells so good already. Okay, I think now we're good at this. So I'm going to add 2 ounces of vodka. We're going to let this deglaze the pan and evaporate a bit. I'm going to turn the heat to low. Now we can add our pasta water and heavy cream that we combined earlier. And we're going to whisk this together until it forms a nice smooth sauce. Okay, now that this pasta is almost done, I'm going to transfer it into our sauce pot. Now you want the pots to be close together so that the sauce doesn't drip all over, and you want that water that's piggybacking off it to be added to the sauce. So now we're going to start stirring this and combining it. And then I have 4 ounces of Parmesan cheese. And I'm going to add about half of it in here and let this melt. And I'm gonna get an additional half a cup of this liquid to help thicken up the sauce, and you can add it up to 1 cup or more if needed to help the consistency of the sauce. So this is ready, so I'm going to turn off the heat and I'm going to start plating this up. So I got here some fish that we cooked up earlier, and we don't have too much of the green beans, so we have to divide it between the entire family. So I'm going to take just a little bit. And then I'm going to get some pasta in here. Now to finish off our pasta, we're going to sprinkle a bit more of the Parmesan cheese over top. Drizzle it with some olive oil. I forgot to harvest this earlier, so I ran out to the garden right now, and I got some basil. Cut it into ribbons. And look at this. Delicious. Let me taste test all of this for you. Gonna start off with the green beans. Well, first of all, I probably would have roasted them a little bit less time, because it doesn't have the crunch that I usually like, but the flavor is delicious. The garlic, the Parmesan, really, really good. Let's taste this pasta. Wow. Just as good as remember. With that heat at the end. Delicious. And this fish, nice and tender, flaky. Also with that little bit of heat at the end. This is a delicious dinner. I'm gonna enjoy this right now. Okay, so I went to get an onion from the garden, but today's dinner will be, we're gonna have some fresh sourdough bread that I made yesterday, some sandwich bread with some cheese blinters that I got out of the freezer, and that's the frosting. Then I have here the side of salmon that we made a couple days ago. So we're gonna let this come up to room temperature. We're gonna enjoy this as well. We're gonna make some home fries, which is why I got the onion. And we got some potatoes. And then we're gonna cook up some eggs. So if somebody wants cooked or scrambled or sunny side up, we can have it however we want. So sort of like, we're having like a breakfast for dinner type of meal. So we're gonna start off by peeling and cutting up the potatoes. Actually, we're not peeling the potatoes. I'm gonna wash it, cut it into chunks, and we're gonna cut the onions into chunks. So now the recipe does say to use a skillet. I just don't have one that's gonna be big enough, I think, to accommodate this and be able to mix it. So while I'm cutting these up, I'm gonna get the skillet heating up. I want it nice and hot, and we're gonna have it on a high heat. And like I said, we're gonna cut this into chunks. So I think it'll be easier to have this off the cutting board since I'm working with a small cutting board here, or small to what I'm used to. I probably should have dried off the potato before I started cutting. Okay, my bowls are dirty, but this is the biggest one that I have clean. So I'm gonna get the potatoes in here while I'm cutting them up, and the skillet and the pot is heating up. Okay, this is getting hot already, so I'm gonna add about 4 tablespoons of oil in here. And we're going to add the potatoes. So the recipe does call for 3/4 teaspoon of salt, but it does say to do half now and half later. So I'm going to add some salt now and a little bit of black pepper. And we have to cook this for about 5 minutes. Now while that's going, we're going to cut up our onion into chunks. Okay, so this is now ready for us. Oh, this actually needs to be covered. Forgot about that. Okay, it's now been almost 5 minutes since I covered it. So we're gonna add in our onions, which I have transferred to our bowl. We're gonna lower the heat a little bit. And if you need, you can add more oil at this point. Mine has plenty of oil still. I'm gonna stir this to combine. I'm gonna cover it again and let it cook for another 5 minutes. Now that it's been 5 minutes, we're gonna remove the cover. And now we're just gonna keep on cooking it for another like 15 minutes, stirring it constantly until we like the doneness of the potato. Now the reason why we did this covered was to steam it, and it's perfect because they're looking like they're starting to cook. And now we're gonna develop more of that color and continue cooking down the potatoes. Okay, so now while we got this going, we're gonna cut up our bread because this came out of the oven very late last night and I just wanted to go to sleep. So I had my husband put it into a bag when he got home. Usually I like to cut them before I bag it up. So I'm just getting some slices, probably about 1/4 of an inch thick. And this bread looks beautiful. I think it's the first time I made the sourdough sandwich bread and I don't have any like gaps. I mean, we'll see when I get further into the bread. But as of now, I don't see any. Because I tried rolling it pretty tight. Tighter than I've ever done before. And every couple minutes, I'm gonna give the potatoes a stir. Okay, so we're gonna get this back in the bag until we are ready to eat. Woo! Oh my goodness. Actually, while I have the cutting board out here, we harvested a cucumber today. I'm gonna cut this up. Not the right knife for this, but I'm gonna do it anyways. And I think I'll cut them into matchsticks. Not match, I meant wedges. Okay, so I'm gonna start heating up a pan over here to make some sunny side ups. I'm gonna get that nice and hot as well. Wasn't quite hot enough. So to cook this, I'm adding some pink Himalayan salt and pepper. That I have like both of them together in one jar. And I grind it, and I'm gonna cover it and let it cook like that, low and slow. Now to plate this up, I'm gonna have a little bit of everything. So I have my sunny side up. I'm gonna get some of the home fries in my plate, and I took the sourdough bread and I toasted it up. And I think I did some garlic butter. I had some garlic butter in my fridge, so I put that on the bread. And we got a little bit of the fish and some cucumbers and blends, the cheese blends. So a little bit of everything. And this was delicious. And because we had so many things, I actually was able to share this with a family member that really needed help with dinner on this specific day. And it was an easy dinner for us because you saw all I needed to make was the home fries and the eggs. Everything else I had ready for me. And I was able to feed someone else. So that always feels good. So for the last dinner I'm going to be sharing with you, we're going to make a pesto sourdough pizza with a seared maple salmon. Now for the sourdough pizza, I usually make my regular rustic sourdough bread, or the recipe actually calls it a country loaf. And I follow the same thing, which is just active sourdough starter, some water, whole wheat flour, regular flour, and some salt. And I usually use pink Himalayan salt for breads. And you do all the regular stretch and folds. And then when it comes time to shaping, now I used to divide this into 3. I decided on this day to do 4 instead, and I think it's perfect to make a personal size pizza. So going forward, I would probably do the same thing, divide it into 4. And I shape each of them into a nice tight bowl, which is also, I tried for the first time on this day, and it worked out so much better to keep it in a nice bowl later on when we're making our pizzas. And once they're shaped into a bowl, we need it to rest in the fridge for an hour before we can make the pizza doughs. Or not the pizza doughs, make the actual pizzas. So I am getting some saran wrap out. I'm covering the saran wrap with some oil to prevent the dough from sticking to the plastic. And I'm wrapping up each dough bowl separately. And I'm going to set it in the fridge until we're ready to make our pizzas. Next up, we're going to make our fish because it has to marinate for an hour. So we're going to start off in a jar. We're going to add in some maple syrup, which I ran out of, so I finished off the last little bit with some honey. We're going to have some fresh grated ginger, some Dijon mustard, kosher salt, red pepper flakes, and we're going to combine it in a dish. I did it in the jar, but you can do it in a shallow container or a shallow bowl, whatever you want. And we're gonna reserve a 1/4 cup of this for basting later on. But for now, we're gonna take our fish, we're gonna place it in the marinade for 1 hour and set it in the fridge. Now, as you can see, I did take out some Kani because I was gonna maybe make a Kani salad on this day. I did not end up doing it, and I put this back in the freezer to use on a different day. It's sometime later, and I'm already starting to bake the sourdough. To do that, I preheated the oven to, I think, 500 or 550. And if you have a pizza stone, you could put that into the oven with it. Or I don't have one, so I just use a cookie sheet. And I don't use a disposable one. I use a metal one, so because that retains the heat a lot better. And I'll show you how I make it. But while that is going, because we keep on rotating the pizzas to get through all of them, we're going to start we're going to sear our salmon. So I have my cast iron skillet over here. It's a grill cast iron skillet. I got it heating up till very hot. You can see I sprayed the oil and it's smoking already. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to pat my salmon dry and get it onto the skillet, skin side down. I'm going to let it cook for about 5 minutes, and you're going to see that it's gradually becoming opaque. And then I didn't have the right spatula, so it was kind of hard. You might see me struggling. You're going to flip it to cook skin side up for an additional 5 minutes until it is cooked through. Now, once it comes off of the skillet, it's done cooking, we're going to baste each slice with 1 teaspoon of the reserved marinade before serving. And if you want, you can garnish it with some chopped scallions as well. And I think I may have had my fire too high, because you can see like the skin got burned quite a bit. Now, to create our pizzas, I'm going to get out a piece of parchment paper. I'm going to dust some flour on it. And then I'm going to get a dough bowl out of the fridge. And next time, I think I did it with like a regular pizza dough. And I think it would work with a sourdough pizza dough as well. You don't want the dough to be too cold, because then it jumps back. It won't like hold its shape when you try to stretch it. So I would bring it to room temperature a little bit. Take it out like 10-15 minutes before you're ready to make the pizza. So I take it out of the fridge. I am going to place it on the floured parchment paper, and starting from the center, I push the dough bowl out to create the pizza crust. Once I like the size of the crust, or the dough, what would be the crust, I am going to spread out some pesto that I had made using some garden basil. And that is going to be our sauce. And I have some fresh mozzarella that I have cut into chunks, and I'm going to use that for the cheese. And once I have that on top of the pesto, I'm going to get the parchment paper onto the cookie sheet that I have preheating in the hot oven. Now, while the pizza's in the oven, I am hungry, so I am gonna start eating my fish first, and I'll eat the pizza once it comes out of the oven. This fish was delicious. I love the flavor on it. And like I said earlier, I think I would have cooked it on a slightly lower heat for a little bit longer. I would have taken my time and done it. It just the first initial cook you want it to be a little bit hotter because you want that skin not to stick to the pan. But the flavor of this was delicious. I loved it. So now once the pizza has baked for 10 minutes, now the reason why it only needs so little time is because the oven is hot, the pan is hot, and it just cooks so fast. I'm taking it out of the oven. I'm going to let it cool on a cooling rack for just a couple minutes. I want to let that cheese settle down a little bit before I cut into it. It helps with the stringiness of it, that it shouldn't pull as much. And once it has cooled off a little bit, I am going to slice it and cut it. I'm going to top it with some basil. If you're using pizza sauce or tomato sauce on this, I would maybe even suggest drizzling some olive oil over top to add additional flavor to that. And that is it. Delicious, delicious pizza. Like, this is always a family favorite. So guys, with this, we are done for today's video. So I wanted to take the time and thank you for hanging out with me to make these 5 no beef, no chicken meals. And if you like this video and want to see more cooking videos, more meals down the road, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on what's cooking next.